Welcome. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, great. I'm glad to see you. I'm also new here. I'll just go through the process with you and hopefully you enjoy this. If not, that's okay. But no, you will, because it's gonna be fun. No, I can't promise anything. It's new. I started this illustration with the inspiration of Princess and the Pea. I actually don't remember this story growing up as a kid. I mean, I know it, I know of it, but I don't ever remember hearing it, like a book or anything like that. But I was very familiar with it. Anyways, this is the drawing that I did. And I did the drawing, I started it off on my iPad in Procreate. Really worked on all the details, got a good sketch. Mostly I do this because erasing on watercolor paper, it can mess up the fibers in your paper. And when you paint on top of that, you're not gonna get into the grooves like it does. And I'm using Arches. It's cold press. It's the textured one. I start off with the skin, going in pretty confidently here, but I'm using a lot of water just so that it's light and I guess it's the localized sections. Once it dries, it lightens up quite a bit after that. She is reading a book. I don't know if the princess actually has a real name. I called her Piper because I kind of thought she looked like a piper. The paints that I'm using are the Schminky. I don't know how to pronounce that. Schminky brand. I think there's about 12 colors that I have. I personally like using a minimum palette. If I have too many colors, I get really overwhelmed. If you're really disciplined, then you'll be fine, but I think using a limited palette can make your full picture cohesive. The brush I'm using is the Paulina Bright Mop number 2. And I really like this paintbrush. I think it works really nice and picks up the color. If I was really, it probably would be fun to just do a loose painting with this mop brush. I have my palette. I'm using a ceramic plate I found at the grocery store. Alright, once I got my localized color down, I start going in a little bit more pigmented. That just means I have less water on the brush. This is why we show up to do watercolors every day, is because it's so relaxing. Meditative. I'm not meditating though, I'm listening to a podcast while I work. I often do that. I think we have a tendency of working a little bit better if we are slightly distracted. I could watch that process all day of staying in the lines and getting a nice crisp line from watercolor. That feels good. Just building up my colors just to get them brighter. So you can do this, you can only do this so many times. I mean, theoretically, I guess you could do it forever, but I find that eventually you start pulling off the color. My line work is just really, it's kind of a dry on dry technique. Okay, that's not what it's called wet on dry technique, but I try to have as dry of a brush as possible with it still gliding on. And then I'm using a vertical hold, which helps with my control of the brush and gets it a little bit more detailed. So I'm really liking where my drawing went, or my painting went at this point. And then I decided to be really brave and use the masking fluid. And I actually just really regret using it. I shouldn't have used it after I did all the work. I mean, if you look really close, I like everything, and then I put the masking fluid on, and you'll see eventually as I'm pulling it off, it's kind of a bummer. But I did Google it to see if I could put masking fluid over your painting, and it looked like you could. So, but I think it was a fail. Maybe if you waited long enough to do it, maybe the color, but I'd used pencil too, and actually I can't remember if I had used pencil at this point. Kind of looks like I used pencil though. I must have. No, I hadn't. I hadn't used pencil yet. It was just straight paint, which, I mean, is pretty nice, pretty impressive. Then I just ruined it all with the masking fluid. But that's okay. You live and you learn. And here I am losing all the hours I spent on that drawing. Most of the texture just gets ruined, and I didn't like the texture of the paper afterwards. You know how we talked about using an eraser? Well, I think it kind of screwed up the paper too on this, but I fixed it with my colored pencils, some sharp colored pencils. Nothing more fun than sharp colored pencils. It looks like I'm using a black pencil, but I'm not. I'm using a dark purple. And I think that, especially with children illustration, dark purple or dark blue is a good substitute for black. It just keeps the image really friendly, really happy. So I'm just going in trying to get my darks darker, and I don't know. To me it kind of shows confidence if you can get in with that dark. But I use it pretty sparingly. I already tried to. And then here I'm just putting the texture back in with pencil. I'm not sure why I didn't try to go over it again with my watercolors. I think at this point I was just, okay, we have to get this done type of a thing. Although I'm just doing it for you guys, so I had all the time. If I was a little bit more patient, maybe I would have finished it off with watercolors, but I like the texture of the pencil. I like how it turned out. So I'm happy. In the end. I think at some point in a drawing you always have to have that, oh my goodness, what am I doing? Especially with traditional. But here we are. This is pretty much the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making this little illustration. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.